So we're still moving out. This is pretty much a mess because it's our second last day in Nashville. We're putting stuff in storage. Then we're heading to Australia via Hawaii. So we're going to have some fun in the sun there. But we've got 2 cups, no bowls. It's a mess. Morning.
Oh, thank you.
No bowls available. I've had to make my oats in here. Put a bit of protein in there. And there we go. Let's see how it turns out. That was a great little snack. Very punchy, bit of chocolate protein, delicious. Want to give you guys an update on where we're at with the planning of the run. But today's video, more specifically, I want to dive into the new coach that I've hired, what our goal with the training is and what that actually looks like. He's sent through a big video reviewing all my Strava data, giving me some feedback on where I'm actually at, and then we'll dive into it. I'm also going to take you, we're catching up with some friends for lunch before we jet off. This is our second last day here, as I mentioned, and then I've got a training session. So with the logistics of the run, we've nearly got it all mapped out. I'm just going to bring up the screen, and once again, I will be doing a whole video on this at some point. So if you see here, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've got a whole tab set up on my laptop here with the route and key areas, social media stuff, sponsors, fundraising, the crew, even media training and running a documentary, all the things that I've got to be logistically figuring out as we go in the lead up to the run. But with the route, we have mapped it out. So we're going to start in Alaska, and that's all I'll give you for the moment. But we're just fine tuning the last couple of days in America before we fly to Australia with those runs. So we're just trying to work out what's going to be most time efficient, because the time of year that we're running is actually probably going to be very cold, right? So there's probably going to be snow on the road. So it's definitely going to slow down the commute from city to city as we're doing these runs. So we've got to be mindful of that. And realistically, we don't want to be doing huge drives because that in itself is tiring. We've just literally driven about 9,000 miles or about 14,000 kilometers around the country. So we know what that feels like. Don't want to be doing it anymore. So we're going to take all of those logistics into consideration. And that leads me to today's video, why I have hired a coach and I've outsourced my running. Firstly, there's so many moving pieces that I need to stay on top of here to make this a success. And a lot of people are worried about the physical component of it, which I definitely am as well. But there are a lot of other things that could go wrong as to why this run may or may not be a success. And if we don't have the right support from sponsors, it's going to be very hard to keep my feet on the road, paying for the van, food, flights, all of those sorts of things. So we've got to really knuckle down and sort this out. So being able to have a coach like Dean.
G'day, mate. Firstly, thank you for letting me look at your training and helping you with this. I'm very excited even thinking about you doing this journey, mate.
Who can hold me accountable. He can do all my programming. He can guide me with my nutrition, make sure that I'm progressing without an injury is a very important part. But let's bring up his video and see what some of his feedback is based off of the initial Strava review that he's done of mine.
What you're doing really well is you're actually keeping your easy runs really easy, which is awesome. Definitely 80% of the week, especially as we increase mileage, you want it to be as chilled as possible. So that's a big tick, mate. Well done on that. So we definitely want to keep that going. And also I think it's awesome that you've been training with mates. I know you've got one of your best mates there and you also run with the girls sometimes. I think like doing as much as that on your easy runs is really good just for you mentally. It's going to get boring the next 5 months running some big Ks. So the more company you have just to get you through it, mate, I reckon that's awesome as well. So that's 2 things I reckon that you do.
Can confirm that running a lot of kilometers does get boring. So it's good to have people to run with.
Mate, to be honest, my biggest concern at the moment is your training volume. So I've done some calculations, and over the last 8 weeks, your weekly average totals is 58K a week. That's probably on the lower side for anyone training for just a marathon, I would say. So, you know, it's a big goal doing 58 over 58 days. So that's something we're really going to have to improve on and sort of work up safely. So
that's a very polite way of putting it. The challenge I've faced over the last 8 weeks, while there's no excuses, it needs to be getting done. We've been on the road touring, which means a lot of kilometers in the car, a lot of late nights finishing around 2 a.m, being back up at sort of 7, 8, 9 a.m. So sleep was compromised, and it left me with this choice around some days I would get up and run, regardless of how tired I was and how limited sleep I'd had. But then other days I would prioritize sleep just so I didn't absolutely burn out. So now that we're heading back to Australia and I've got a nice clean couple of months with very limited travel, it's going to be much, much easier to get the kilometers on the legs.
Implement, mate. We need to increase our weekly run volume, definitely. That'd be a priority. And we also need to sort of improve our consistency with your run volume. At the moment, sort of the last class will be to find weekly mileage that actually works for you. So if we can build you up safe.
That's going to be fun to do, and also something that I've heard from multiple coaches. My initial thought, and the reason why I did 2 marathons in 2 days and a couple of halves back to back, was I just thought I needed to get as many kilometers as close to what it would feel like running back-to-back marathons, which is a couple of 100 kilometers a week. But the truth is that's not the case for this. It's just finding a place where you can remain injury-free, you can get time on legs, and obviously when you start the challenge, that's going to be when the real challenge of it kicks off, because you haven't necessarily done as many kilometers, but you have conditioned yourself as best as you can, and I'm sure the mind's going to come in. So it's cool to hear that again around finding that sweet spot to avoid injury, but also best prepare yourself.
In doing that is really structure your week to maximize your running volume and recovery. What I would like to do with you is, at the moment, you're doing a lot of the back-to-back long runs, for example, like I know you're doing that this weekend, and that's going to be really good for the specific training we'll need, but I just don't feel like at this point in time you've earned the right to be doing back-to-back marathons or back-to-back half marathons. That's all.
It's funny he also says that. I always talk about earning the right to achieve a specific result. I hated hearing that, because in my head I think I work hard and I put a lot of kilometers in, but obviously the data tells a different story, which he's going off with the Strava data around the inconsistency in weeks and the low mileage weeks as well. So now that I've thought about it, he's definitely spot on there with I haven't earned the right. In my head, I feel like I have. So there's a mismatch there, and I think people experience that in all areas of life.
Benefit out of it, but if you ran back-to-back half marathons this weekend and you're really fatigued for the next week and your whole next week of training's done, then honestly it wasn't worth it. So we need to put in a couple of consistent months worth of consistent weekly high mileage training before we sort of earn the right couple months from now to actually implement some of those more crazy specific training sessions like back-to-back marathons. So yeah, we need weeks and a couple months of consistent increased volume before we start doing anything crazy like that. So we want to structure your week to maximize your run volume and recovery. Any questions for me, mate? Take what you will with this info. If you've got any questions, let me know. We can jump on a call whenever you want. And the good thing is we've got time, mate. So we've got just under 5 months. So at least we've got plenty of time to get some consistency going, and whenever you're ready to sort of have a more deeper talk about this, mate, and get a plan on paper, I will be more than happy to help you, and I'm pumped, mate. Thanks again, Lach. I'll talk to you, brother.
So as you just saw, I got a 10-minute recap. I just cut up a few snippets from that. I found it super informative. We've got a great plan. I've got someone that I trust and that knows my ability, but also doesn't want to make sure that I'm injured, so I can be in the best position when I kick off on January 21. So super stoked, Dino. Thanks, mate. Back, and it's about 32 degrees out, so I'm going to slip, slop, slap. Always slip, slop, slap. So for my training sessions, I'm aiming to get about 60 grams of carbs per hour. This one's about 12K, so it'll be about an hour of training. So I've got one of these gels, and then I've also got about 30 grams in a shaker. So I'm keeping the water minimal because I'll have a water bottle to drink, but I want to keep this more carb dense than. I always get worried coming to this area. It's a bit of a sketchy area, but the the track is quite nice. So sometimes leaving the car in a half empty, more than half empty parking lot, you're like, I hope it's still there when we get back. It is bloody warm, like extremely warm. The lid's gonna come off soon, but we've got a 3K warm up, which I'm just gonna run laps. Then we have 5 1-kilometer efforts with 90-second standing rest. So I'm gonna hopefully end up as close to the water as possible and get in the shade in between these efforts, and a 4K warm down. So the 4K effort is really designed to be running more kilometers on tired legs, since Dean doesn't want me doing back-to-back long runs just yet, because I haven't earned the right. So I like that, but I'm looking forward to today's session. For part A, I've got strength tonight. Our first one I did in 3:59. 1 minute to go till we got the 4-kilometer cool down. Felt really good until the last 2, and the heat really kicked me up. Wowee. That one was hard, hot, everything in between. It ended up being an hour and 8 minutes, but 12.34 kilometers. Average pace was 5:31. That's including the rests. 32 laps, 944 active calories. That was a fun session. That was tough, but I'm stoked that it's done. Now to go home, fuel up, rest up, got some work calls, and then I'm gonna hit session number 2, which is strength, and then spend probably 60 minutes on the bike getting some more aerobic work in, because apparently I have not been doing enough. Can confirm, car is still here.